For those of you who don't know me, I'm Adrian Seeger. I have lived in town for over 40 years, and I taught at Marlboro for 10 of those years. And I am going to introduce the format for today, and I'm going to moderate some of it, as you'll see, as we go on. And I want to say this before we begin. One of the things I love about this community is that it's diverse. We've always been able to speak and listen to each other with respect. And I think it's one of the things that many of us value about this town, and one of the reasons why many of us were drawn to live here. And I feel, and I think a lot of people feel this way, that unfortunately the way that this plan for Marlboro College has been developed and then suddenly shown to us has turned this into a sort of us versus them situation that's destructive and it's painful for everybody, And my hope is therefore that we use this time to listen to and speak with each other with open hearts and minds so that all of us can be heard. So we've set this meeting up as a discussion-style format that I'll shortly describe. And I want to point out that Marlboro College faculty, staff, and students have at least had some meetings to discuss the plan from their unique perspectives. And so I ask all of you to remember this and to respect the need for time for townsfolk who don't work or study at the college to share what they want to share today. So I would like to remind everybody that for many of us who live in town, this is our first real opportunity to meet and talk about the impact of this proposed plan for Marlboro College from the town's perspective. And whatever happens, its impact on the people in this town, about 1,000 of us in this town, will remain in perpetuity. We're going to be affected long after many of the people who actually work or study on the Hill have left. We will be left with that legacy. I also want to note that, as you can see, that Andy Reisman has kindly offered to video this meeting, and feel free to let people know who can't attend that it will be processed and placed in the BCTV library by Monday or Tuesday. You can watch it there at any time. And there's a link on the event site, on the event for this site, or you can go to BCTV's website in Brattleboro and go to the library there and pull up the video of this. So a few things before we start. Let's find out very quickly who's here. So we'll do this by standing. Those of you who are standing there, a couple of empty seats right here. Please take a seat. Right here. There's one right there. Any other? Okay, please come and sit if possible. Unless you prefer to stand. Fair enough. I get it. Okay, that's fine. If you prefer to stand, stand. There's one over, yeah. There's one right here. Yeah. So let's just go down some constituencies here and see who's here, and I'll sort of count out what we've got. People who are residents of the town of Marlboro, please stand up. Or put your hand up if you're already standing. So that's probably about 70% of the people in the room are residents of Marlboro. Okay, sit down. You may be in more than one category here. Any Marlboro College staff here? Current Marlboro College staff? Okay, well, one person. Okay, two people, thank you. Any Marlboro College students here? No. Any Marlboro College current faculty here? So, one. David. Okay. How about former emeritus faculty? That would be me as well. So, stand up if you can. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about eight of us here. Media, folks from the media. We have Bob Odette from the Reformer and Jeff Potter from the Commons. Thank you for coming. Anyone from Emerson or the Emerson?
They're working with us and they're practicing today.
Okay. Any other affiliations? Anything? Any other affiliation I haven't mentioned? Stand. I'm sorry. How did I miss that? It's on my list. Marlboro College alumni, stand up. Thank you. About 20 or so of you are here. Former staff, good for you. Former staff, well, a lot of you. 1, 3, 7 or 8 people, now 10 people. Okay. Thank you for, I always forget a few. What about other affiliations that I haven't mentioned? Parent of a student, yay. Yeah, any other? Yes, a couple of those, 3 of those. Yes. Any other affiliations? An Emerson alumna. Husband of an Emerson. Okay, so we have and select board member.
Jesse Kreitzer, I'm the vice chair of the Marlboro
Select Board. That's right.
I'm an Emerson alum.
There you go.
And I'm also serving on the task force as the community representative for the campus task force.
Thanks for introducing yourself. Okay. All right. So here's the meeting structure today. We're going to hold discussions on 2 topics. And the topics are listed on that first sheet in my amateur handwriting up here. And so the first topic, our views on the proposed Marlboro College plan to close down the school and transfer the endowment and campus to Emerson. And then the second topic is what the town's response might be to that. We'll take a short break between these 2 discussions, which provisionally will be of equal length. We'll see how this goes. We'll just kind of make it up as we go along. I will be the moderator for topic 1, and that'll start with a short introduction from Joe Mazer. And Lucy Gradwick has kindly agreed to moderate session 2, so I can kind of take off my moderator hat and actually say something, which I will do. I will do a brief introduction to topic 2. All right, before we start our first discussion, I'd like to do something, and I request that you listen. This is something that's going to cause a lot of noise, a lot of conversation, and I'm going to ask you, but the conversation is relatively short, and the main problem I have when I do this is getting people to stop talking. So I will yell at you and stick my hands up when the time is up for this, and if you can notice that and stop talking and stick your hands up too, and we can move on to the next portion. So I'd like everyone in the room, to find someone probably who they're sitting next to, preferably if you have a choice, someone you don't know, may be difficult, and find a partner. Find a partner. You'll need one other person to do this exercise with. Anyone having a problem? Stick your hand up if you don't have a partner. Stick your hand up if you don't have a partner. Okay, stop talking and listen. So here's what you're going to do. So listen first. When I tell you, share your names with your partner. Okay, when I tell you, share your names with your partner. Whoever names your first name, whoever first name is earlier in the alphabet, you'll be partner A, and the other one will be partner B. Let's do that. Okay. If you've got that figured out, stop. Shh. Next instruction. I want you all to take a few moments in silence to think about what you'd say to your partner in 1 minute. In other words, something really condensed about your answer to this first, your view on this first topic. What do you feel, incredibly briefly, I'm going to give you a minute for partner A to share with partner B what they think about their view, what is their view of their plan. You're just talking to your partner, and there's going to be a lot of noise, and I'm going to tell you when a minute's up, and then we're going to obviously switch and do it the other way around. So just listen to what your partner says. You will have a minute to talk to them. Clear? Go ahead. 10 seconds, wrap it up. And that's a minute. If you can stop talking, please put your hands up and stop talking. Thank you. That was good. You guys are good. And partner B, do the same thing. You've got a minute starting now. Wrap it up. And that's a minute. Let's stop and let's thank you. Good. Jeez.
We're well trained.
You look good. You are really good. I'm going to explain how we're going to do this discussion format, and then we will actually start with the discussion. So we're going to use a discussion format called Fishbowl. I'm going to sit because, and I ask people to sit in chairs here because, as you'll see, we may end up with some conversations here, and it's easiest if everyone's on the same level. So let me go through the rules of Fishbowl. They're very, very straightforward. If you want to speak, you can speak in this room at any time, but you must be sitting in one of these 4 chairs. You do not speak from the audience. Anytime you want to speak, you don't have to wait till someone here is finished speaking. They say something, you think, I want to say something, just walk up here and take an empty chair. Okay? I will stay in this chair here. I will attempt to moderate what happens. But basically, the only people who will be speaking is up to 3 people who will be in these chairs. And those people might make statements to everybody. They could talk to each other. We'll see what happens, okay? My job is to attempt to moderate that, and Lucy's job is to do that too. When you finish what you have to say, for the moment, leave your chair. Go back to your audience chair. Leave a chair for someone else to say something. You can always come back, okay? And, you know, that happens. People like, oh, and then someone comes up, I want to say something more. Okay, obviously, we have a lot of people here. We have limited time. Try to minimize the number of times you're bobbing up and down unless you feel it's absolutely essential. And also be concise. And also, please stay on topic, okay? Conversations here are great, but you know, the moderators reserve the right to say this is a rabbit hole, or we spend enough time on this topic, and let's go on and get into some other viewpoint. And that's a judgment call, and I, from my part, will do the best I can as far as that's concerned. And then the final situation is if you want to speak and all these chairs are full, if these people have just come up here, let them say something at least. But if someone's been speaking for a while and it's like, I want to speak too, okay, I'll walk up here and someone here will leave. Okay, and usually that person is self-selected. Occasionally you get a situation where everyone wants to speak, in which case we might form a line here. But see how it works. Okay, but please remember how it works. You don't have to wait till people are finished speaking. If you want to speak, just take a chair. When you finish speaking, leave the chair. Okay. So at this point, any questions about Fishbowl? Those are the rules of Fishbowl. That's it. It's pretty good. Yes, you have a question.
What if someone's not mobile, mobility issues?
Great question. So we will have to then we would make an exception. Is there anyone in this room who is going to have a problem getting to the front? Bruce, maybe. No. No. He has self-identified, removed himself from that category. That's a great question, and thanks for asking it. But it seems like we're okay. But if anyone has a problem, let us know. If you can't, come up. But don't talk from the audience otherwise. Thank you. In that case, I'm going to invite, for both these discussions, we're going to have a relatively short introduction, which will be probably by far the longest time that anyone will be speaking uninterrupted today for this session. And Joe Mazur has offered to come up and give 5 minutes or less on this first topic on the college plan. And here he is.
Well, this sounds like a lot of fun already. I'm having a lot of fun with this. So I'm Joe Mazur. I've taught at Marlboro College. I taught mathematics at Marlboro College for 30 years. I've been gone for 16 years. And yet I really feel there is some kind of a invisible thread that is linked to me and the college in some way. And so I'm very concerned about what is happening with the college. Am I speaking loud enough for everybody? Can everybody hear? Louder? Okay. I'll try. Let me give you a little bit of the history of my thoughts. It started pretty much after the announcement of the UB deal. When that happened, I was listening to Kevin Quigley upstairs above this room telling us that, he spent 45 minutes, or at least the college spent 45 minutes, telling us that there were only two options. One option was this deal that they had with UB, University of Bridgeport. And the other was close the college, essentially close the college. And it wasn't closing it next year, but still closing the college. And I thought, well, okay, there's just two possibilities. And then very soon after, I learned that the deal was dead. At that moment, I thought, well, the deal is dead, and it has to be the other option. There were only two options. You know, I'm a mathematician, so there's a problem with rationale and logic. So I thought, what could the college be? What would the campus be? And I looked into my experience with a number of residencies and art centers, and I thought, gee, you know, I know something about the Banff Art Center, which is an incredible art center, a very vital and wonderful place where 1,000 people come every day to mingle with different artists and different mathematicians even. And I thought, gee, what if the college could be something like that, could develop into something like that? And I thought, well, why, if that could be, then why not have a fledgling college to its side? In other words, the two could complement each other in some way. So you keep the college small and develop an art center in some way. So I wrote letters to every influential person I knew and waited for replies. And I got a few replies. Many of them were sort of between cold and lukewarm, or a little bit perhaps warm. 2 minutes. And I didn't. So I will skip all of that history. But I decided to have a conversation with Dick Saudick, who was the chairman of the board of Marlboro College. And I had a long conversation with him. And he said, I love your idea for the art center, but there's only one problem. The problem is the college. It's got to go. And he informed me that in the next few days there would be an announcement, and the announcement turned out to be the Emerson deal. I was horrified by that because I realized that it's a all or nothing sale. In other words, everything must go. Yep. the everything must go sale turned my head into a thought that, wait a second, the faculty had not been given any other options. There was, again, that door A and door B. And door A was everything goes to Emerson College. Door B was you're alone. You're out of here. Well, okay, possibly with some kind of a severance pay. And I thought, wait a second, where's door C? And I thought, door C? Door C could be, why, it's the question, and this is a poster question, if I can have one more minute. Is that all right?
All right.
Okay. It's a poster question. Why would the college finance faculty positions for faculty at a college 100 miles away for the purpose of having faculty move there and retire there? But these were faculty positions that were in perpetuity. These were faculty positions that were endowed. $2 million per faculty head. That's what we were told. So I went to my little corner of yellow pad, and I wrote down some figures, and I figured, what if we had X as the number that we should offer to faculty members and say, you pick an X, that X is an endowed fund for your position, just your position, not some future faculty at Emerson's position, but your position. And I came up with some figures. And I did some canvassings of some faculty members, and I said, you pick that, would you, if you had that X, would you pick door C, which is scratch Emerson, but I will take that endowment, that particular endowment for my 1 day, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, all the way up to 8 years of freedom to do what I want. You could then, with door C, you could then, if door C were available, and it turned out to be that, then you could, with the extra money that in the endowment, in the college endowment, you would be able to keep the college, keep the campus, and endow the campus with about between $10 and $13 million. This is a no-brainer for me. It's just, I have no understanding why that idea had not surfaced. That's door C. There are risks. So you open door A, for example, there is the risk. It's possible that C would actually happen, and you'd have an amazing new facility here at Marlboro, and you're saying, wait a second, I made a mistake in coming to Emerson. And there's door C. It could be that we never really build the art center, and you're stuck with 8 years later, you have to find another job. So,
to stop you there.
Okay, so I'm told to stop, and I would like to segue this into, if I could.
Well, no. Go sit down. Thank you. You can come back.
Okay.
Well, let's hear from some other folks. Yes. Jean. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I'm Jean Boardman. I'm the owner of the Whetstone Inn next door, the only functioning business in the center of town, with the exception of home businesses or people who work from their homes or have their own companies that are in town, but I'm the only obvious one in these 4 buildings. And I've been here for 40 years. I wanted to say, for those who don't know, that there is a 99-year contract from the music festival to be on the college campus from mid-June through mid-August. And so the discussion a little bit should at least be focused on what kind of institutions could be developed to occupy the campus during the other 10 months of the year. I'm very interested in seeing if the campus can be separated out, if the part with the faculty and the students go ahead. I have already had guests of parents who are very concerned that their student doesn't want to be in the city and really couldn't function very well in the city, not only with all the distractions, but just the living situation. And they aren't aware yet of what the tuition will be transferable at the level that it is now, but there's no assurance about the other costs, the living costs, and that kind of thing is what's going to happen. I'm interested in knowing how, or at least the faculty should be interested in knowing how Emerson's other off-campus facilities have been operating and if they're successful, and if the idea of an institute, how much it's going to be integrated into the university for the students to be able to finish, or if there's just going to be this little, they're going to get the $30 million of our endowment, which might be used in some other way, and the $40 million that they, the $10 million that they estimate that the campus is worth. And so those are questions that I'm interested in looking at, what other possibilities for the use of the campus that are educational or nonprofit or arts.
Thanks,
Kind of thing. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Eichelberger. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I'm sort of new to the area, so I haven't had a chance to meet a lot of you. I teach ceramics over at the college, and this is my third year teaching. And I should preface, I have until exactly 10:30, so I wanted to come up and say something, but when I leave, it's not an expression of any opinion. I'm not running out the door. I just have to leave right then. I wanted to be here to express support for the idea that Joe was talking about an art center. It seems a little premature to be talking about, developing ideas about art centers when there's so many unanswered questions about the Emerson affiliation or transfer, and what else could happen. But Joe and I had a fortuitous meeting in my backyard when the power went out a few weeks ago, because that's the only place his phone would work. And this is between the UB possibility and pre-Emerson. So we were talking about this idea as hopeful futures when Marlboro was in that in-between state. So it made sense then, and we've sort of carried on with it. And but like I said, I don't want to support that at the risk of sounding opportunistic, because there's a lot to figure out about the college. There's a lot of people who are whose positions are either being lost or changing. My position doesn't transfer to Emerson, so my thoughts about the future don't involve the possibility of teaching in Boston, or not losing the position and not moving to Boston. So it's a little bit of it's put me in a unique position that's made me look a little bit more towards what might happen after any change of Marlboro College happens. I'm also hopeful that I can be part of the working group on campus. It's not decided yet. There's the components of the group are decided. Everyone that's expressed interest on being on that group seems very, very interested in hearing what everyone has to say from all different constituencies. And it's, again, not set, but it seems likely, and this is not a promise, but it seems very likely that there will be public forums or ways to receive ideas from groups like this that can offer proposals or ideas that can contribute to the discussion happening with the working group. Again, it's not decided, but there's a lot of enthusiasm about operating that way. So, and I've got to go. Again, I'm sorry. So thanks for giving me a chance to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Should I stand to talk?
No, I don't. I actually prefer people sitting because we can have conversations here if you so desire. T.
My focus on this has been mostly on the process, which has been abominable. This whole thing has taken place more or less in secret. The contrast between closing and Emerson, the contrast between closing and UB, has been, it seems to me, designed to scare people into accepting the one alternative that's being offered. I think it's irresponsible not to explore a variety of options. I know that there has been some work on campus to explore some other options, but the leadership of the college has really failed here. The leadership of the college has worked against building constituencies, has even forbidden faculty members to attend a briefing for students so that they could understand the students' interests. This is completely foreign to the traditions of Marlboro College. Marlboro College defined itself in terms of its governance before it determined its curriculum. If you look at the first brochure that Walter Hendricks put out, he describes a town meeting form of governance in which all members of the community would be involved. And that's not what has happened here. And I think it's critically important that there be a variety of positions and possibilities discussed. And I think in order for that to happen, I think the leadership of the college has to change. And that's what I'm focused on. And I invite people to write to the trustees, who are the only people who can do this, to write to the trustees and to help get new leadership. I think we should have a president who's an alum, who is deeply familiar with the college, and we need a new dean of faculty who has the confidence and the experience of Marlboro from of old. Thank you.
I am.
That's T. Wilson.
T. Wilson. I taught at the college for 47 years.
Thank you very much. Can I request that the speakers stand so that it's easier to see and hear them?
That's absolutely fine, as long as, but if we have conversations, it's kind of hard to have them when some people are standing and sitting, so bear that in mind. If you want to stand as an individual, that's fine.
Can I also request that people identify themselves and their name?
That's fine, if you want to, yes.
In front of the chair. I am Sunny Tappan. I am a Marlboro alum. I was receptionist for 20 years at Marlboro College. I was known as the hub because I was, I saw much going by my desk. I picked up on a lot of information. I could see through the current administration's actions that many people were being systematically excluded from decisions, much as exactly what T was talking about. The staff were discouraged or actively told not to attend meetings, were taken out of committees that they had traditionally been on. And I saw that there were money spent on marketing schemes that were not in line with what Marlboro College was about traditionally. It was a waste of money in my point of view, and the leadership was never involved, the current leadership was never invested in what Marlboro College really is. And when I was a student, there were 129 students. It was suffering, it was struggling, and it made a comeback, and it is not a typical four-year liberal arts college. It is special. There is a place in this world for Marlboro College. It's a really important part of our country, and we really need it. Thank you.
My name is Nelly Sarkisian, and I'm a current faculty at Marlboro College. I'm a tenure-track faculty, so I'm one of the people who will be able to go to Emerson if I choose to. And this is my 5th year at the college. And I want to start by first establishing that I also live in town. I have kids at the elementary school, and I consider this town my town, and I volunteer whenever I can. The important thing that I want to establish is like compassion and inclusivity of not only professed through words, but when we evoke through language, we actually practice it. And I just want to share when town people or non-town people who write articles about college and faculty and call us defanged or compromised, that doesn't include people like me in our town, right? That I'm not viewed, or like when I'm, viewed as they, like just waiting for them to leave. I'm not positioned as one of you, like one of the town folks, but I thought I was. And people like me, I'm not just speaking as Nelly Sarkisian. But I also want to say that, I know my colleagues who have been on the task force, working on the possibilities for the college, they have also spoken, and just the fact that they are not being heard, and the focus is on the leadership. Leadership has to do this, leadership has to do that, and they're not viewed as important participants, even though they themselves speak as important participants. I think that's also a problem. So I want to be able to articulate our differences at the same time, be able to, be neighbors and colleagues and, express the difference, not just to think of each other as neighbors and colleagues when we share a perspective, right? So I want to respectfully disagree with T, and say that even if the structures were not as open through town meetings as we would have wanted, our colleagues did participate and did have our, best interest in. I trusted all of my colleagues who were part of the task force 100%, that they would have our interest in mind. And I think they have articulated in town meetings, in different forums, their perspective. And to assume that we didn't try different possibilities is also invalidating the input that people had in terms of energy and time. How many reimagining things have we had over time? In my time, for 5 years, every year. And I know, even when Ellen was president, and this was before me, these issues have come up. And, when my colleagues who have longer institutional memory say that we have been through this and we have come out. But there are similarities historically and divergences. 3 million fewer people were born in 2008. We can't discount that. And but the people have already given all these contextualizing details. So I think if we want to focus on this, and also what the town's response is, that not ask people who are deciding to go or who have a chance to continue, like, prove us that you did enough, because that means that, we are not together. There is an asymmetry in this relationship. So it needs to be shifted and working together. And, these ideas needed to come up earlier, not at this point when it's, given where we are. So I just like compassionate engagement in a way that does not discount people's effort and time and energy, or that doubts that I prefer to teach on this hill, or that I would much rather. This is the only place that I would have wanted to work and teach. I love my students, I love my colleagues, I love sharing meals, coming up with creative stuff across disciplines, and having students over at my place. I mean, I can't do these I've never been able to do these kinds of things in other places. So to doubt that we have tried different things, I don't think that's fair either. Thank you.
Feel free to say it puts Tina on here.
I mean, first of all, I hope that you don't think that I have been thinking of the faculty as they. I addressed you all as colleagues. I addressed you all as colleagues in a letter to which I got no response. And I'm sorry, but Kevin, the president, has been in negotiations with Emerson for 2 years. And he told us that. And he took keeping the campus open off the table before he brought it to the task force. So this is not something in which the task force has been engaged all the way along. This is something that the president has presented to the task force as an almost done deal. And I understand that the task force has been engaged and has been, but part of what I said to my colleagues is this leadership has focused exclusively on things that cannot be, on things like the demographics, which you refer to, and on things like the reputation of liberal arts education in America. These are not under our control. There are things that are under our control, and we need, I'm not saying, and I said in one of my comments that there have been previous efforts to engage with this. I'm not expecting Marlboro to go on exactly as it is. I think we've worked ourselves into a corner here, but it's critically important, I think, for the history and tradition of the college, for its engagement with the history and tradition of this place, and for my colleagues who are still on the faculty to remain, to have an institution here, not have it shipped off to Emerson, and all of you with it.
I mean, you know, you reiterated what you're saying, and I don't have anything more to say, because I think that these documents were shared with you, and people spoke here about numbers, how they calculated if we decreased the number of faculty and staff and kept the campus, it was still not viable. I mean, there are different things that...
Which meeting are you referring to here? I don't know what meeting you're referring to.
So, you know, some task force members, right, William Edelglass and Kate Ratcliffe and Kevin
the meeting went with the local representatives.
Yeah, so spoke here in the community center. But I think William Edelglass shared with UT a document just going into detail about the possibilities that had been explored and were not sustainable. So I don't really have anything else to say on that. Thank you.
I would like to bring up Will Wooten's letter that he put in the Brattleboro Reformer. Will Wooten is a Marlboro alum. He was director of development for years at the college many years ago, and then he was president of Sterling College. He wrote a very eloquent letter, which is his norm, to the Reformer. It was also in the Commons, the most recent Commons, with various questions about if there were to be a merger with, say, Emerson, what guarantee is there for the Marlboro College students for the year beyond the first year they're at Emerson? Do they get to continue on in their classes the way they had thought? Or do they have to go back and take introductory classes with Emerson and be set back and not get the degree that they had really set out to get? What happens to the faculty? Do they decide, you know, if you have tenure faculty, but then you decide that you don't need that department? What happens to those tenured faculty? I don't know. But I think there are some other questions that have not been looked into for a merger such as what is proposed for Emerson.
Robin.
Hi, I am Robin MacArthur. I just live in town. And first, I just want to give my love to Nellie, who's in the kitchen. It's so courageous. She's the only faculty member here, and it's so courageous to speak up. But he left. He left.
Also, the ceramics professor.
He left.
No,
No.
she the one that just stood up.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
And Tommy's here as well.
I don't think that's the point of my statement. My statement is that that's so courageous of Nellie to represent an entire faculty. And I think, I've said this online, but I feel like I might have thought that Marlboro College was my college at some point, and I think that most people in this room have some deep affiliation and connection that makes us love this place and have deep emotions, but this is not my college to decide what to do with. And I love many of these faculty members and I trust them. And it's not up to any of us what this college decides to do in this moment. What I want to focus on is what happens to this land and this campus and how we can create something new and beautiful that honors the legacy of this educational model and, you know, continues a legacy of democracy and the arts and ecology, and really focus on the future. This is not, I don't think this question is particularly relevant to this room right now.
Hi, I'm Lori Panther. I'm new to town, though I was here at the college in the 80s. And I have a daughter at the college, so I'm a parent of a student at the college. So I'm being faced with, where's my daughter gonna go? And is she gonna function in downtown Boston? So I feel like I got a couple of hats going on here. I'm building a house on Cowpath 40. So I came here, you know, with my daughter to put in my roots. And so it's been a little nerve-wracking. But I wanna say that I think my deepest fear is that like a steel town, you know, once the plant closes, that somehow the town dies. I just feel like the energy and the commitment and the vibrancy of the town really isn't, I don't feel like it's in danger. I feel like we're still standing, you know what I mean? I think that Robin's ideas about a rebirth and what's gonna happen next with the college, to me, the train has left the station regarding my daughter going to Emerson. She's already decided that's what she wants to do. She's taking a van up there with some other kids tomorrow to look at it. I'm gonna drive over during her finals, because she doesn't have finals, and we're gonna look at it so I can see it, so I can feel like I know where she's going. I do know a trustee member ran into Sarah Coffee at the co-op yesterday. The working group for the campus, I think there's definitely room for another faculty person like the ceramics guy. I know they're talking about that. But yeah, the decision is gonna ultimately rest with that group. So, you know, we have Jesse to represent, to take the ideas to the group. So I'm just wondering, yeah, as we go forward, I mean, it's sounding like the group, because I've talked to 2 people on the group, is really committed between now and June. It's not a done deal that Emerson gets the campus. If people can put together a deal to buy the campus before like June, they will happily not just give it to Emerson. But I think even if it did go to Emerson, I think there's some understanding that even Emerson would like to open it up to not just like condos or whoever's going to pay the most. That's not what anybody wants. And besides, the music festival has right of first refusal. They wouldn't let something like that happen. So I think everybody that I'm hearing is trying to come up with ideas that are thoughtful about the trails and the campus and the property, and that the working group at the campus, it's not Kevin's working group, it's a working group of a body of people. So, I mean, if we come up with other ideas, I think that their job is to try to piece together some things. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you.
No, stay.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to respond directly to that? Is that okay with you, Dan?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, and I think that's terrific. My question is sorry. My question.
Stand if you like, yeah.
Oh, I better not.
You can.
I'm actually asking the question.
Speak up.
Okay, so my question is the wholesale of the campus. That's the issue for me. Why is it everything must go? Why is that? If we didn't have everything must go, you could still have everything else, but you've got to leave something for the development of whatever the campus is going to be. So without that, you've got nothing. That campus costs almost between $1.5 and $2 million a year to keep in shape. So the question is,
You mean like
where
the
are we going to
books
get the money to do anything with that campus?
Well, they're going to maintain it through.
No, well, they'll maintain it minimally.
No, I'm just saying between now and June. You're talking about after June?
After June, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nobody
where,
knows yet. We got to come.
Well,
they're
to
the
build
working-
anything from that campus, you're going to have to raise a lot of money,
Right.
lots of money. Why not get the money from whatever the deal is, a little bit? You know, it seems like an all or nothing deal. I mean, where did they start the negotiations from? Where did that start? Here you got everything. I want to buy that car. It's $1,000. Okay.
I want to add.
I'll pay $900, but don't.
I want to add a point of information here. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because we don't know very much about the agreement that has been signed. But my understanding is that at this point, the working group can be ignored. If Emerson decides they don't like what the working group comes up with, they don't have to pay any attention to it.
That's true after June. That's not true until June. We have until June to put together a deal to come up with money to buy the campus before it goes to Emerson.
Right. But Emerson has, my understanding is that Emerson could basically decide, that it's not the working group that has any control over whether that gets decided or not. Emerson decides
No,
that.
that is not my understanding.
It is, that's correct.
Well, I just spoke to 2 members of the working group yesterday, and also, I have spoken with Kevin. Until June, the college would like to sell it to somebody else and not necessarily have it go to Emerson. That was the message that I got. We have until June, you know.
The agreement, however, does not say that. The agreement, it's certainly possible that Emerson could say, yeah, great idea, we'll do that. They could also say, nope, not going to do that, and Emerson gets to decide, not the working group. That is my understanding. Is there anyone here, I don't want to spend a lot of time.
Yes.
Is there anyone here who has direct knowledge of this?
That's why I'm here.
That would be Tom. Okay. Tom Tillino.
Okay.
What about Dan?
There was a hand that acting like
Yeah,
answer to your
well,
question.
do you have an answer to that?
I may, but why don't you go ahead with Tom and.
You just nudge me when you...
When the college wrote the agreement, Emerson made it clear that it was not interested in hanging on to the college property.
That's okay.
And so Emerson, really, the conversation didn't go forward until the college agreed that in the merger, that the college campus would not necessarily be part of that merger. But the value of the college would be part of what's included in that merger. And the decision is supposed to be made, as she points out, on July 1st. However, the college and the pressure that the college is under for making this merger happen means that the memorandum of understanding will probably be done in February. So the pressure is immense on all the working groups. They're doing their best to sort through this stuff. They've got a faculty in general that thinks that their only way forward for their careers is to accept this deal. And it is absolutely clear what T has said, that the process has always been 2 options, either A or B, and no consideration and no discussion of the whole people in this town, even the faculty at my college or the staff of what other choices might be possible. So we have heard none of that stuff. And what Kevin does say is that the corporation of Marlboro is controlled by the trustees, and it is the trustees who will make these decisions, period.
I have an email here from Kevin, sounds fairly definitive, about the working group process. Yeah, well,
it's a private exchange between Kevin and myself, but I'm comfortable sharing it.
Right, and maybe you should just introduce yourself.
I'm David Williamson. I'm class of '98. I'm a resident here.
So this is a letter that Kevin sent to David. He said, the working group will most likely set up an RFP process to consider offers to purchase the campus and or proposals for use of the campus. For offers of purchase, I expect that those offers will need to be in the form of a proposed legal agreement for sale with earnest money, deposit, a mortgage commitment letter or letter of credit, as well as evidence that the organization or individuals has the resources to cover the roughly $1.3 to $5 million annual costs to maintain the campus. Between now and June 30th, the working group will shepherd this process, making recommendations to the Strategic Options Task Force and the board, coordinating with Emerson when appropriate. After July 1st, if the merger goes forward, Emerson will direct this process.
So we have through June, but we got to get some money together. Kind of a save Hogback Mountain moment.
So my name is Dan MacArthur. I'm here in two different roles. One is as a resident of the town, but I essentially was going to agree with Lori, and having spoken with people at the college yesterday, I believe that that's really the situation. It's got to be earnest money. Nobody questions that, but there are some options between now and whenever the time frame was. I'm also here as a school board member, and I wanted to say that the school board met with Kevin and David Eichelberger yesterday to talk about the possibility of moving all or part of the elementary school to the Marlboro College campus. The school board has hired an architect to look at what we can do with our facility to make it function for the next number of years. And that architect is setting up a time to come and assess some of the buildings at Marlboro College to see whether they would function as an elementary school and how much it would cost to transition them into use for elementary school students. And we will be looking at trying to put a budget together for how much that would cost and how much money it would cost for us to be a part of a consortium to purchase all or part of the campus. The elementary school has no interest in operating the campus and being business managers, but we could buy or lease a portion of it, and that would be then where the school would be located. So just wanted to throw that out there as part of what Joe's been talking about, what David was talking about. What's this going to look like, and can we come up with a firm plan, earnest money in the short period of time that we have?
My plan is to spend about another 5 minutes on this. We're halfway through our time today. We do need to get out of here by 12. So about another 5 minutes on this topic. We'll take a short break after that, and then we will reconvene to talk about the second option issue. And you can probably sneak some of your ideas on this first issue in if possible. I think you were next. Yes.
Sure. I already mentioned I'm David Williamson. I'm class of '98. I live here. What I didn't say before is I also was on the faculty of Southern Vermont College last spring when it closed. And there's a lot of talk from the college about the dire situation. I know a dire situation. Southern Vermont College had no money when NETCHI pulled the accreditation. With the exception of just a few of my colleagues, everybody has a job. So there's this notion everybody has to go to Emerson or they've got nothing at all. I know it's a tight hiring market. I know it's scary, but there are 3 people that I can remember that do not have jobs. 2 of them decided to retire. There's 1 person who does not have a job, and that's relatively sad. However, she has made that decision because she wants to stay in Bennington until her son graduates from high school. She could have moved and gotten a job. So the notion that the college closes and suddenly all the faculty don't get a job and there's no other option is one that is, I think, fantastical. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to talk about accreditation. The idea of the school's going to get shut down is a message that's being sent fervently by the leadership of Marlboro College. They've got $35 million. They could sustain that college for, I estimate, over 10 years. And for the record, I'm a professor of management, but now at Miami University in Ohio. So actually, leaving SVC, I got a better job, pays better, and So, at any rate, I have some idea of what I'm talking about. The idea that the college has to close down, immediately is, again, I believe to be false. And then just my one last thing, this constant argument to demographics that we hear. We knew for 18 years that there would be less 18-year-olds now. And I think that speaks to a profound failure of management. And if you have any questions about whether that's true or not, all you need to do is look to all of the companies in the world whose target demographic is 18 to 25-year-olds that are succeeding right now. And in addition to that, only about 30% of people in the United States get college degrees. So that leaves the other 2/3 as potential applicant pools across all demographics, including older people who are going back to colleges in record numbers now. So, thanks for your time. I'm sure.
Louder, maybe you should stand.
Okay. So my name's Aaron Pilarczyk.
Much louder.
Oh, okay. My name's Aaron Pilarczyk. I'm a student at Marlboro College. I'm a senior, so I'm going to be graduating this coming May. I've been here. I'm starting my 3rd year here. I came as a transfer from Wesleyan after some time off in between. And during my time here, I've fallen in love with this community and this college. I've come to realize it's a special community here, and I feel like the college and the community is really one of a kind in the whole world. And if there is another college somewhere else out there like this, I'd love to know where it is. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing after this, and the other options out there are just, there's nowhere else like Marlboro College. And I say that coming from a place like Wesleyan that's considered just below Ivy League. I went to excellent school system in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, one of the best school systems in Western Massachusetts and Massachusetts in general. And this is by far the best education I've received. So I have a credible love for this, and to me it's heartbreaking to hear the news of its closing. So I guess my concern is the way this was all done to me, it felt, when I interviewed here, I was told that we had community governments, and that students had an equal voice in everything. So I was told I could sit in on a committee, I could make decisions as a student about if faculty are appointed or like big decisions on the college. Everybody has an equal voice, the students, the staff, and that's the way it was presented to me, and that was one of the reasons I came here. So the way this has happened to me, the news we got last Wednesday just felt like it was out of nowhere. I know the college has been in trouble, and I've been wanting to try to help, and I've been doing things, and I was planning on, when I graduated, really spending a lot of time helping the school. And it feels to me just, it feels like we have no power in a sense. It felt like there was a meeting and the trustee just stood up and said, Marlboro College as of, May will be part of Emerson. And it was spoken as if it was already a done deal. And there's no discussion whatsoever. And we have town meetings and we discuss things like, oh, can we take $1,000 and buy like a soda machine? But this decision just kind of was handed to everybody, and it feels like we're all kind of like these lost sheep now that we have no power. And I kind of wonder, I met Joe at South Pond, and actually we had a conversation between the University of Bridgeport and Emerson deal. And I just wonder about other options, I guess. And I feel like there should be transparency, that no leadership is completely above the law. We see that, we're in the United States, so we see that our president is subject to division of power between the House and the Senate. So it feels like a decision that's going to affect the future of this whole area. And this is, if the college leaves, this will affect the area for hundreds of years. So I feel like we have time now to make decisions and do things that are going to have an effect on this area in southern Vermont for hundreds of years. So I feel like it's really important we use that time. And I do feel like the leadership of the school at some level needs to be accountable. And I say that, I'm a friend of Kevin's, I see him at South Pond, and I really like him, so I'm surprised at the lack of transparency. So I say that as a friend, I feel like there should be accountability, that leadership is always accountable for the decisions. And when I bring these things up at town meeting, Kevin usually says things like, this isn't a community decision, this is for the trustees and the president. And I just wonder, is that really true? Because every time you go down this path of what can we do to save the college, what can we do to help it? And as a student, I know so many other students that would do so much to try to help the college continue here. I know so many people that say they've tried all these other schools and none of them worked, and this place is, just like I'm saying now, one of a kind in the whole world. And there's so many people that would help if they were given the chance. So,
thank you. I appreciate your eloquent testimony. We'll hear from one more person, and then we will bring the session, this first discussion session, to a close and have a brief break.
I'm Amy Tudor. I graduated from the college at the end of '98. Built a garden on the campus with Kathy and Tim. And I've been sifting through it all. I'm a sifter. It takes a long time. I gather and gather and gather, and then I come out and I have my position, but I'm not there yet. At first I thought, there's just no money. I get that. It's really hard to run a business and there's never enough money. But I think a lot of people are in town because we live a different way of life, where money isn't the main driver, but you still need to pay your bills. I grew up in a very poor community in Washington County, Maine. I got to come to Marlboro. I got a $14,000 grant to come to Marlboro. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to have this kind of education. And now there are people in 8th grade, there are people in 4th grade, and it's done for them. When are they going to be able to leave their family systems to learn new ways of being? Places like this are closing, and I think that's why it's always been an up and down, because there's not the money. So I feel it very deeply for the people who are yet not here.
Thank you. So we could go on with this first discussion, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. I have like 8 minutes past 11. Let's reconvene promptly, please, at 11:15.
My name is Lucy Gratwick. I know most of you. I've been here a long time, and I worked at the college, and I'm happy to be here and hope we make some progress. So, Adrian, you wanted to bring this...
Right. Yes, I'm switching from this moderator role to a participant in this portion because, and this has been hard for me this meeting because I do typically moderate things and it's fine, but I have skin in the game here, obviously. I live in this town, I really care about this place a lot, and I think like many people in this room, I feel, I feel angry about what has happened. And my anger is not so much about, I'm a process person. I'm really interested in having good process. And we've heard today about how many people, how Marlboro College has for 70 years used a very different kind of process that's being used until recently. And so I really want to talk about some elephants, what I see as sort of elephants in the room. Because essentially what has happened is, as we all know, that 23 people, just 23 people, Kevin and the Board of Trustees, have decided to close down the school and transfer the entire endowment and the campus to Emerson. And everyone else, everybody else, including thousands of Marlboro College alumni and the 1,000 residents of this town, and everyone who works and studies at the college who wasn't part of that decision. In fact, there was one resident in town who was involved in this, who was, of course, Kevin himself, who's lived here for 3 years. But everyone else was completely shut out from this decision. And I want to talk about some counterexamples of schools that did something different. And there is a huge, the reality is there's a huge deliberately created knowledge vacuum and power imbalance in this situation. So why is that? Well, let's talk about, for example, what has been going on with Hampshire College right now. Now, Hampshire College in my day, and probably still is, the educational institution that's in some ways closest to what Marlboro College's educational philosophy and whole sort of social culture is like. And when Hampshire announced at the start of this year that they wouldn't admit a freshman class, just announced this, and were looking for a merger partner, what happened was that the alumni, once they heard about this, they rebelled. And that led to the prompt ouster of the president and the resignation of the board chair. That's what happened within a few months. Okay? That's what happened with Hampshire. Apparently, Marlboro College chose a different approach, maybe learning from what had happened. Their approach was to find a partner in secret who would accept a giveaway, as we have talked about, of the entire college endowment and the entire college campus in return for providing 20-odd faculty jobs and allowing an unknown, at the moment, number of the 150 students who are currently at Marlboro to transfer. Who knows how many of those will actually transfer. That's it, for $40 million. And it doesn't surprise me if you go and watch Lee Pelton, the president of Emerson, on his YouTube announcement, how gleeful he sounds. Yeah. He of some, as he said, very exciting news to share. And yeah, a great deal for Emerson, I agree. So a second example is a small college in Virginia called Sweetbriar, which nearly closed in 2015. And what happened was that, again, alumni, students, and faculty united to save the college through legal action, social media, and a fundraising campaign. And eventually, it's a long story, but eventually the Virginia Attorney General's office announced a mediation agreement to keep the college open, and the president and the entire board were replaced. So you can understand, these are two examples, and I know that every school is different. Hampshire is different, Sweetbriar is different, every school is unique. And I'm not saying that this is, a simple process. Both Hampshire and Sweetbriar are not out of the woods yet. They're still struggling small private colleges, like many small private colleges as well. But I think there are two examples of what small college communities can do if their board has the basic decency to announce publicly a decision to close without secretly locking a school into a divisive agreement with no input from the school's actual community, something that, and I'm pretty clear, I don't know Kevin at all, but I try to judge people by what they do, not what they say, but everything he's done makes it clear to me, and I think to all of us, that he has no concept of what Marlboro College has been, and who the real community of this college is, and practically the resources that are available. You've got thousands of alumni out there who have not been asked if they had been given a similar situation to Hampshire or Sweetbriar. I'm pretty sure that there are some alumni around who say, "Oh, hey, we want to save the school. Let's we will give you some money to keep it going for a while, so we can figure out what's going on, and maybe come up with some ideas from the broader community." Those alumni and some of the people in town have amazing resources. Those have all been tapped, have all been ignored, shut out. 23 people plus, a consulting firm or two and some attorneys have decided the future of this school. And so I basically think that the secret deal that continues to withhold basic information from both the college and the town communities. I don't know if anyone has seen this signed agreement except the boards of the two schools and some attorneys. I think it's outrageous. I mean, I think all of us in different ways are angry. We all have our different reasons to be angry about what has happened. We're all going to be affected, impacted in multiple painful ways. But I'd like to point out, and again, I'm speaking as a townsperson here, that the impact on the 1,000 residents on this town will continue in perpetuity. We are the people who live here, who've lived here for years, for decades, in many cases, would like to continue to live here, or will be continuing to live here, will be affected by this long after the poor folks who will be affected, who are working or studying at the school right now, will have reluctantly moved on and got on with their lives. We will still be living here with potentially the real possibility that the entire Marlboro College campus will be controlled by a distant and disinterested entity with no guaranteed funds left under local or community control to ensure its maintenance or to pay for efforts to find and provide incentives for potential occupants during the 9 months that the festival is not in residence. Oh, that'll be plenty. Thank you. So Peter Van Loon wrote to me, he can't be here today, unfortunately, wrote this summary, which I think speaks for many of us. He said, I feel like this solution that the powers that be came up with is a sterling example of a flawed process catalyzed with a lack of creative problem solving. I think that really...
He passed his clear writing requirement.
There you go. And so I think many other people have no confidence in this plan because it's been devised to pit different constituencies against each other rather than work together to come up with solutions, which is what has happened in Marlboro for 70 years during the struggles of its existence. And unfortunately, since the board continues to reject any attempts to consider alternate plans, for example, what I just suggested, a temporary alumni financial support, so we can actually have some time to figure out what we might be able to do that involves all the resources that are available to us instead of 23 people and a consultant and some attorneys. As a result of that, I would like to bring as much formal and public pressure to bring on the board as possible. And so personally, I would like the town to formally register its outrage with this plan and request that the president at least be promptly fired and the board explore how the entire college community, not just 23 people, can keep the college or some worthy transformation of it alive.
I'm Ann Gingarelli. I'm speaking as a resident. I've worked as a poet in the schools since Bruce Cull was the principal. So I don't have any practical answers, but I'm really concerned about voice. That's what my work is about. And I taught at Hampshire College for 7 years. Our daughter, graduated from Hampshire College, and she sends me much of the information. She gets an email every week as an alumnus of Hampshire College. Sorry, Adrian. So when you brought up Hampshire College, I felt I needed to speak to that just feeling my rage as the antidote of what's going on here. I think I'll just end saying Terry Tempest Williams has a book called When Women Were Birds, and there's a sentence there that says, in a voiced community, we all flourish. So I'm really grateful that this is beginning to happen. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Boardman again, Whetstone Inn. I just wanted to say two things fairly briefly. One is that I spoke 2 days ago with a woman who owns a bed and breakfast in Pulteney, which is where Green Mountain College closed last year. And she said, and that community is larger. They have 4 restaurants, they have 3 gas stations. They have all of which have been affected by the fact that they don't have a music festival, they don't have any kind of security in there, and they don't even have you know, an attraction, except for the fact that it's a Vermont town in the country. And so she's saying that they have been hit very hard, and that there's been no action on the part of their community to come together and support them. They said the only government organization that has been down was that the Department of Transportation did come down to discuss how to attract people to the town. That's that report. Secondly, that I had not heard Dan MacArthur's idea or the board's idea. I think that is a fabulous possibility, that you could keep Marlboro College at the small size and move the elementary school, which has roughly the same number of students, and it goes K through pre-K through 8, and there are buildings that would accommodate both college classes and, you know, and the elementary school. There's parking spaces. It gets the kids off the highway. I was on the school board with Dan for almost 20 years, and we fought right from the beginning with the traffic problem, the fact that elementary school children can't walk to school because it's on the highway. We've had meetings with the town about the problem with transportation. There's no public transportation that goes across the bottom, even though the 18-wheelers do. And so it would be a fabulous possibility of working together, some money from the town going to helping the $30 million that students could still get, because there's not enough college students to really utilize all of the buildings efficiently. I think it's a positive thing that we should at least work on and get information about possible finances, and then have some kind of a fund drive to see if that's a possibility. Thank you.
T. Wilson again. I just wanted to speak briefly to Adrian's comment about engaging, in particular, the alumni of the college. There are a lot of very distinguished Marlboro alumni, and some of them are in this room. But they have not been engaged. They certainly didn't get an email a week about what was going on. After the UB fiasco, the Marlboro alumni, especially those who are themselves in the academic world elsewhere, immediately pulled together with the director of development and the director of admissions and said, we can help. We can help you recruit students. We can help you raise money. Nobody told them in their engagement that, by the way, this other thing has been underway for a while, and we're going to yank the whole rug right out from under you. So a lot of them are themselves furious. And we need to, whatever we do, we need to pull everybody. We need to pull the current faculty who have been separated off, as Nellie was saying. We need to pull the alumni. We need to pull the townspeople. We need to pull everybody together to do this. And I agree with Adrian. I think that this will not happen with the current leadership. So I encourage the action that Adrian suggested.
Who's next? Go ahead.
Jenny.
You're on.
I'm Jenny Ramstetter. Came to Marlboro in '77 and graduated from the college in '81, and then was fortunate enough to get a position here teaching, and I've been teaching here since 1989. And I haven't spoken publicly on Facebook. I haven't spoken publicly in a venue like this. And part of the reason is the complexity and the layers and the new things that I learn every day, every hour, every minute. For example, I learned things in an email that William Edelglass wrote this morning as I was trying to read as much as I could before coming to this meeting. it includes things like what options were explored, and it wasn't just the trustees. There were 2 members of the faculty, sometimes 3 on the task force, and 1 student. I wrote an email to the chair of the Board of Trustees and to the president and the dean of faculty requesting that there be alumni representation on that there be staff representation that was other than senior staff. And I actually didn't get a reply. I got a verbal reply to that, which was, can't do that. So I shouldn't be in a position as a faculty member of learning what things had already been considered, and I cannot speak to the accuracy of the assessment from that letter. I just can't. I want for us, and I don't know exactly who us is, to insist on as much information, and it's fractured us a lot. It's fractured us with the town, with the college, with different people at the college, with people who've long served the college. So I think in terms of what the town's response might be, I'm a bizarre perennial optimist, and I have no reason to be, but I think Lee Pelton came to the college. He loved the college. He thank you, Dee. She said, of course he does. But I actually, again, I'm a perennial optimist. I believed him. And so then I spent the night thinking, instead of sleeping, let's get Emerson, let's have the Emerson thing happen, but let's have Emerson be engaged in the Marlboro College campus. They have other campuses. So what can the town do? What can the college do? I don't know the answer to these things, but I want everything on the table, and I want all the information to make the best decision possible. United World Colleges, I know very little about them. They've expressed interest. They've had programs at the college, the elementary school, all of these things. A continued small liberal arts. We need the liberal arts more than ever in this nation, in this world. I don't want it to go away. So I guess I don't have anything specific to offer or to argue for, but we need to demand the information that's going to help us make the best decisions possible. There are reasons why some faculty, it may be the best fit for them to go to Emerson at this time in their life. We have 24 wonderful faculty members at the college. The staff get nothing out of this. So there are just thousands of issues. I don't have any specific answers, but we need as much support from the town, and the college needs to come together. And I walked in, as Robin was saying, this is the college's decision. And what do we mean by the college? We can argue about that. But in the end, as much influence as we can have between now and then. It's good, sorry.
My name's Jonathan Morse. I've lived here since '81. All of my children went to Marlboro Elementary School. I've been a building contractor in the area until I retired, and I'm still working.
Join the club.
I share Adrian's anger at this process, or lack thereof. I feel enormous energy in this room today, enormous determination in this room today. This obviously is not going to stop with this time today. And it does mean that everyone, even people like Pete, who couldn't be here, Pete was the rock of the college for years. He saw Marlboro College through numerous ups and downs. What's going on now? We don't know. It feels like to me that, and I don't know anything about this, but it feels to me that Kevin was brought in to close the college. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how it feels. And I do know, let me give you an example of what a community can do. When Home Depot came to Brattleboro, we had meeting after meeting after meeting about how do we, and as a building contractor, it was really critical for me. How do we save the locally owned businesses? Marlboro is basically a locally owned business, right? We ended up getting 3,000 people to sign a petition that they would not patronize Home Depot in Brattleboro. Home Depot, as you know, closed. There is power in each one of us taking a stand. And I'm not saying that we can do the same thing that we did with Home Depot, but we certainly have power in this room.
I'm Tim Seeger. I've been a teacher at Marlboro for 22 years now, and I'm retired last year, but I still have one last plan student, who I call my dangling plan student, who kind of refuses to graduate, but she's getting close. In my dual citizenship as a citizen of Marlboro College and my citizenship of this town, I find myself in a really torn position, and I'm feeling what Jenny said a moment ago very acutely, which is that the way in which this plan is fracturing us and pulling us apart is a danger that I hope to resist, and I hope that we can find ways to go forward without becoming acrimonious towards each other, whether it's current faculty with emeriti or alumni versus the college that they loved and continue to love. These fractures are palpable and they're growing, and I feel them myself. And what I hope, and one particular way in which I'm torn is I'm torn between seeking solutions like the Institute, like door number C that Joe talked about at the beginning of this session, and advocating a kind of do-over of the process with new leadership at the college. I really can see both as viable options, and I could see myself going back to work and working very hard for either one, rather than staying retired as I am now. So which one wins out in this battle? Who's got the power in this currently? It's overweighted in one direction. Can we exercise our power? I hope so. One thing that got said to us as a group who were looking for ways to carry this idea of an arts institute forward about the campus was that it was going to be too expensive to maintain the campus. Well, the alums have been supporting the college to the tune of about $2 million a year recently. Now that wasn't, it was a kind of a record year that they gave $2 million. It wasn't every year, but they understand the dire situation that the college is in. That kind of support isn't going to transfer to Emerson College. I'll bet there won't be a donation of more than a couple of $100s a year heading Emerson's way. I'd be very surprised if it were otherwise. So there are resources for us to use, whether it's towards reinventing a solution or reinventing a new identity for the campus.
Yep. So I want to correct some impressions about what I had said before, because I think people are assuming that I am against the entire deal with Emerson. I'm not. I think if that's a part of the deal, that's okay. my position is that there has to be a deal made. In other words, some kind of negotiation where we're not left with an empty campus and a campus to be sold to somebody who we don't know. And this is in the possession of Emerson, and Emerson can do what it wants with that campus. So I want to correct that. It's not that I'm suggesting that the deal should not be made. I'm suggesting there should be a negotiation. But I also want to address Adrian's comments, and several other people have talked about the power. I think that you do have a power, and the students they do have a power. The power is, the students have the power, the alumni have the power, and this town really does have a significant power. That, the money that is being given to a school 100 miles away is a big chunk of money. That is an endowment that was designed for Marlboro College in Marlboro, Vermont. To give that money to a different state, the state of Massachusetts, that has to be signed off by the Attorney General's office. So keep that in mind. With the power that you have as a town that is going to have an empty campus, you have to think about whether we can. I would suggest, Andy, that you give that video to the Attorney General's office, a copy of that, and we can sign a letter that suggests that the Attorney General should see what's going on. Thanks.
I'm Deanna Noyes. I graduated from Marlboro College in 1980. I worked there for 25 years as a staff, and I've been an abutting neighbor of the campus for 30 years. Additionally, my husband works there as a staff member and has for over 20 years. He will lose his job. I go back and forth between being so angry, so incredibly heartbroken, and yet every once in a while there's like a little glimmer of optimism and like, okay, we have this incredible body of creative minds, and what could happen? So much could happen up there. A little college could continue to exist. The Institute for Creative Studies could exist. The elementary school could exist. And the Nordic Ski Center, continuing the legacy of Malcolm and Randy, could flourish. So much could happen with positive energy and a lot of hard work, but there's something big in the way that needs to be gotten rid of. I don't know how to do that.
He's not that big.
He's not that big. So there's this roadblock that needs to be moved, and I don't know how to do that. I'm not convinced that the Board of Trustees is interested in doing that. So that leaves me feeling hopeless again.
No.
But I think, I think something really, really good can happen there. And it's not going to be the same Marlboro College that Jenny and Randy and Jeff and Sonny and so many of us grew up in and loved and flourished and thrived. It's going to be different, but that doesn't mean it can't be good. My understanding is that the property is zoned as educational. And correct me if there's anyone here on the planning board.
That's true.
So for something other than an educational institution or institutions to buy the campus or take over the campus, my understanding is that they would either need a variance or a rezoning.
That's correct. We discussed it at the last meeting, and it would have to be decided what happens to its zoning if somebody other than an educational institution were to buy.
Right, and I understand that the town could weigh in on that.
Yes.
Or make
Oh, absolutely.
So, so there's another sort of little safeguard on, to keep in mind. So I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy Weber. I came across the pond in 2002 to marry my husband Richard Draw, who's been a Marlboro resident for 30 years or so. Forever, yes. And I'm particularly interested, it's not so much in the what, but in the how, and like as Jonathan said, it's the process. And I particularly want to speak for a process at the moment that, or a process, if I'm this side of the pond. And I wrote down the words a little while ago, divisive and fractured, which is, you know, what's happening or has happened, and the words coherent and empowered. And, you know, how can we get from divisive and fractured to coherent and empowered? And I'm going to speak for a moment, slightly metaphysical, but to something, I mean, it's about intention. And I'm particularly connected at the moment to something called the intention experiment and the power of 8. And it is about the power of intention, which kind of gathers everybody's needs, if you like, but put into a single coherent, laser-like, if you like, intention that does attend to all the needs. And it gives that sense of empowerment, because when we come together with a coherent intention and really put it out there and are not focusing so much on what's wrong or the pathological, even though that needs to be addressed, but on what's possible, there's such power in that, in an intention that, well, to me the metaphysical bit is in the quantum field, there's infinite possibilities that are just waiting for us to say, yes, we're here, use us. We have this wonderful idea for, you know, a thriving, sustainable campus that really meets all the needs. So I'm inviting that perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. As an ex-particle physicist, I did not expect the word quantum to be used in this meeting today. I have two things to say. Deanna talked about, we've heard a lot of possibilities for the future of the school, the campus, a lot of different things that can be done in this town, at that institution, at that campus, at that location. And as Deanna said, however, there is a blockage in the way. Yeah. It's very, very clear to me, based, again, on actions and responses. I mean, I think there have already been 2 offers to buy the campus that have been summarily rejected with, you know, basically, nope, can't talk about that right now because it's connected to the agreement that has been signed, which we haven't seen. And it's pretty clear to me, and I think there's pretty good evidence that the board, the folks who have the power, the board basically that will and has the power to make this decision is hunkered down. They want to write this out and have this plan that they have, you know, announced. They're betting everything on this plan. And if you look at what happened, as I said, at Hampshire and Sweetbriar, there was a huge battle, particularly at Sweetbriar. The board and the president said no. When all the alumni said, well, we can save the college, and the president said, no, no, it's got to close, and so on. There's a huge fight about it, which is so unfortunate. And eventually, look what happened. Eventually, the wider community prevailed, and the school was saved. It needed to change. Sweetbriar is still undergoing change, and actually relatively recently, and this comes up to my second point, they had to let go of some tenured faculty. So I just bring that up as a point that just because you have a job at Emerson as a faculty member for now, there is no guarantee that you will have that job a year, 2 or 3 years from now And I'll get to my second point in a minute. But the basic point is that I think it's pretty clear to me that unless the president and associated members of the board who are in agreement with this particular plan are removed, nothing's going to change. We can spend a lot of time talking about these possibilities, and there is this small sliver that this working group may end up coming up with something that Emerson says, oh yeah, that'll be good, we'll do that. But again, if Emerson says no, or they don't have the energy to put into it, and crucially, and this is the point that many of you have mentioned, if all the money that we have, if the campus belongs to a distant entity, all the endowment goes away, we have nothing to work with. You can't, these are great ideas about starting new institutions, but it's it's hard enough to start a new institution, even if you have a place that will fit it, if you have some money, seed money. We're talking about giving all potential seed money away, and for what? So I think that tactically, what we need to do, if you actually want something good to occur, and something that is the best possibility, that is something that is being created and by the resources that are actually available, if this board would only actually listen to them and use them, we need to get the president at least out. And the second thing, as a point of information, again, going back to the security of faculty jobs, I think people should know that as of the most recent financial information available from Emerson, Emerson itself is not in great shape financially. That's one of the reasons why. I mean, they have 140, in 2017 their endowment was 146 million. So an extra 30 million on that is kind of, well, that's kind of nice. That's a lot of extra endowment. They have spent, in 2007, they had spent $610 million on their $500 million on their Boston campuses, buying a lot of theaters around for their film programs and their journalism. They have journalism and broadcasting programs, and they spent $110 million on the Los Angeles campus, which Jesse, I think, visited. And most crucially, right now, in 2017, they had $213 million in bonds rated B, capital B, small a2, which is just above junk status. They are not in good shape. Obviously, their campus is worth a lot in Boston, but they are not in good financial state, and it's very possible that in a few years they'll be in trouble too, and BU or Northeastern will buy them or merge with them, and then anything that we have, the Marlboro program that exists at Emerson, would be pocket change. And so you need to think about the future, the realistic future of this attempt to create some kind of urban Marlboro from our existing campus. And we really need to do something. I mean, this plan to me seems more like, we had to destroy Marlboro College in order to save it. Or we're going to renovate this dilapidated house to new standards, but you can only use a screwdriver. That's the only tool available that you're allowed to use. And I think we can do much better than that, but I think we need to tactically actually go after the board and have them replaced, or or have their minds changed so that they can consider using all the resources that actually exist, which they have refused to look at or talk to.
I have just one sentence to add. One member of the board resigned the day this announcement was made.
I'm going to break in here. It's 5 of 12. We were going to stop at 12. And there are a number of people that still want to speak. And maybe you two should think about what the next plan
Jim says we
is.
can go on a little more. When would you like us out of here?
You can. How about you keep going?
All right, you just speak up. This is your space, our space.
I just have a point of protocol or whatever. Is that there because we're going to come up with some ideas at the end?
I have no idea. No.
I mean, I'm just hoping that maybe somebody pulls all this together with a couple of plans so that we keep moving after this meeting ends.
This is the first step of an ongoing process.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, but I want to see like.
Okay, let's see. It is.
Something that happens next.
My name is Julian Fairholt, and I've been part of the Marlboro community for 20 years, and I'm only part-time living in Marlboro, but it's a lot of my part-time, and some of my dearest friends are here, and this community's been very, very important to me, and it is a very extraordinary community, and every time I come. But I have just one thing to add, I think, because we're running out of time, and that is I'm a child psychiatrist who's been very involved in the politics of healthcare in this country, and I've watched the problem of advocating from people who are, for people who embrace caregiving values, who embrace humane values, and we see it in the House investigation when we watch the Republicans and the Democrats and in their differences in the way they are pursuing the evidence. There is something to be said in understanding that there are very good people who have very confused ways of thinking about moral issues. And there are some trends in the society right now which interfere, and people can act in very reasonable moral ways around some issues and be very confused about other issues. And we can find them very friendly on the beach, we can find them very friendly in our personal lives, and they can do atrocious things with their professional hats on. And so I don't judge people by their actions only, I judge them by their mental lives too, and I try not to judge them too harshly in terms of their own character. But there are times when you're fighting for a cause that you know is meant to be a creative and constructive and cooperative cause, when you need to take an adversarial stance. And we're at one of those moments for sure. Whatever is inside those people and however they may respond at some moments, and maybe ultimately in a more humane fashion, what they're doing here is morally wrong. This agreement is morally wrong, both because of its process and because what we've heard here about its outcome. And I believe that the town of Marlboro should be committed, first and foremost, to stopping this deal. And it should be prepared to represent itself clearly in opposition, both to the process and the conclusion. And it should look to the methods of adversarial power that can be brought to bear on people who are acting badly in a democratic society. And that means we go beyond the town, we go within the town. There are neighboring communities, there are businesses, there are lots of people who are impacted by this. And we do what we can to organize and to involve people at the state level. And right now we're in the midst of a very big crisis in this country. And there are people running for president, and some of them, one of them is from the state. I wouldn't hesitate to go any place over this issue. And because you're very right about it. And there's no question that nobody in this room felt arrogant or sure about what would be the best outcome. But everybody was very sure about the values that this town is built upon, and how those were shared with this college and with this music school, which is also extraordinary in the way it teaches and the way it governs. So what we have here is something very special that fits with its natural setting in a very important way. There's not a chance in the world that what they're doing to Marlboro is going to continue that. So whatever they're promising us there, it may help some individuals, but in no way is it going to preserve this important college. And maybe it can't be preserved, and maybe we'll decide not to help preserve it because we'll see something new. But wherever we go, whether it's Joe's Art Center or the college or the elementary school or whatever we do with that property, that's not what the crucial issue is right now. The immediate issue to address is this adversarial position of bringing power to bear against people who may be very decent people, who do not need to be demonized, but who need to be stopped.
Yeah, I can't top that. My name is Jeff Bauer. I live nearby. I'm Joe's neighbor. I'm Julian's neighbor. I'm your neighbors. And I'm also an alum. So 4 really quick things. The first is on timing. So any other alums hang out on the webinar on this past Monday with Kevin? So with respect to the question earlier around timing, the working group has a mandate, according to Kevin on Monday, these things may have changed, that they have to have their recommendations wrapped up in January to go to both boards in February about what to do about the campus, the campus working group, so that the recommendations can go to both boards in February, first signing in May, and execution, which is a funny word, in June, July 1st. So whatever we do, this would be a good time for that. So just in terms of this working group, I think there's a fait accompli here on behalf of the leadership that it is going to be Emerson's decision because there's no way a coherent, it's going to be very difficult for a coherent answer to be done by January. The end of January is 9 weeks away, of which 3 are holiday weeks, maybe 4. So anyway, there's that. Faculty. So I stopped into the Berkeley Beacon, which is the Emerson newspaper. I stopped in on Thursday because, hey, I was there. And someone canceled a meeting with me, the jerks. So I had time. I walked in unannounced and said, I want to talk to the folks at the student newspaper. And they said, are you Andy Reichman? And I said, no. So they gave me the junior guy. They gave me the junior guy. No, the editor and one of the other editors came down to chat with me. So I'm there unannounced. They're there chat with me unscripted. And pretty much the primary question was, how do you feel about having Marlboro faculty and students down here? And they were downright joyous. So regardless of what happens with the campus, I want to put this out there. We're going to have cool new faculty with cool new ideas, students who had a really different experience from ours. And they kept coming back to this concept of, it's ironic, but we have a community of 4,000 people in a city of whatever, in a city bigger than Vermont, honestly. So it was a really positive experience. Again, it's 2 people. And I also thanked them for the good work they're doing along with the Commons with respect to getting some information out to us in what is otherwise an information vacuum. So if you want that guy's email, I got it, both for Nellie and Jenny, anyone else. There's that. The third thing is I'd like to have us start considering decoupling the idea of the campus from the land. There's a large deal of property around the college that was intended as a preserve, which is not officially a preserve. So I think one thing I genuinely offer for us to consider is, wouldn't it be great as a final, wonderful, noble act on behalf of the college to give that land to the town for $1? Yes. And we would set it aside in perpetuity as the Rod Gander or Andy Reichman.
How about Bob Engel?
The Bob Engel Preserve, or whatever. The point is, let's consider in our conversation, there actually are 2 things that we're talking about beyond the human structure, and that is a campus and a bunch of land around it. By the way, the newspaper folks were really impressed that one of our college presidents had been, in fact, a journalist. A Newsweek editor. Exactly. They didn't know that. Okay, good to know. Obviously, there's opportunities to communicate better both ways. And the quick last thing is with respect to point 2 here, what the town's response might be, I think there are 3 adjectives that go along with this. Swift, given the comment I made on timing. Clear, given the fact that we can all say we're pissed, but that's not going to help us with respect to tangible actions. And the third one was really important a minute ago. Clear? Unified. Unified. Because the tool that's been extraordinarily powerful, as I've sat through 2 webinars with the college leadership, the tool that's been extraordinarily powerful is, do this for the faculty. If you're against this deal, you're against the faculty. And that's not true. But we need to be unified in terms of what we go back with. That's what I got. Thanks for being here. Good work. Yeah.
So Nelly Sarkisian again. Just wanted to say that I did not say that the faculty got separated off. I said when we only speak of the leadership, we're making the work that many faculty have done invisible, which I don't think is fair. In terms of alumni giving, a fact sheet had been put together that was recently shared with the newly reinvigorated Alumni Council.
and the Alumni Giving is 3%. And you know, the bigger donations come from we have you know, long-term donors who had been donating to the college, and it has come from them, and they have indicated that, you know, they're not going to be able to donate as much. And the other thing is that our discount rate is at over 80%, which allows us to have the wonderful kinds of students we want, because we don't want to only teach students who can afford, you know, thing, but for us to be able to function on our own, so these are just the numbers I'm giving right now that we have, is we need to have around 300 students who pay twice as much as our current students are paying. And the other thing is that from the accreditation organization, you know, to be accredited, we either needed to have a partner or $50 million. So I just wanted to provide, and the other thing that I was thinking would be important, if we're bringing examples from other colleges, it would be important not to mention, you know, the difference, but what happened afterwards. Let's say, for example, with Hampshire, right? So, like continuation, what were the effects of this shift? So the governing body shifted because the alumni got activated. So where are they now? What are they doing? So so that it's actually a fair comparison rather than just something that on the surface seems like, oh yeah, they were able to do it. But then what are the effects? What happened afterwards would be important.
Not enough time, but that's information's all available along the way.
Okay, yeah, so I encourage everyone to check that out.
So I am Andy Reichsman. And, this has been really great. You know, it seems like there are a lot of great minds in this room, and I feel like it's important that something happens out of this meeting, that action happens. Lauren was just talking about the board there. I feel like there's a working group, maybe, but that we should have a working group. Yeah. And I don't know who should be the chair of that, but I'm thinking Adrian, I'm thinking Joe, I'm thinking T. And there are a lot of alumni who are going to be watching the video because it's going to be posted, and it's already, the link to the video is already on the alumni Facebook page. So to the alumni out there and to people here, you know, we have to do something. It's clear people are saying, you know, the word that came to my mind was resist the plan that's now in place. And we should be thinking about and working on how do we gather all this energy, this passion, this anger, and do something with it. So I think we need to form a group, and somebody has to be in charge of that group, which is not me. But I'd love at the end of this video to have somebody or somewhere that people out there, the alumni, can connect and be able to be a part of this whole, you know, movement. I mean, I'm not sure about just the group that you're with. Is that? But you have to come up here because of the camera. And I'm going to step away.
Hi, Kenny. Jesse Kreitzer. Quick introduction. I was born and raised here. Vice chair of the Marlboro Select Board. And we were given less than 24 hours notice to appoint somebody to the working group. And we thought it was probably well, given the time sensitivity, and also out of fairness and neutrality, we thought the best person to appoint was from within, to appoint a select board member. So I volunteered. I will be serving as one of what I hope is actually two community members. It's my understanding that there was a resolution at the Marlboro town meeting last week to potentially expand. Yes. So it's my hope that I won't be up here alone. And it is my intention to facilitate as many opportunities for us to gather, for us to share ideas. It's a tall order, but at the same time, it's just ultimately boils down to communication and creating space for us to gather. And so I hope to do that. At the same time, you can also communicate with me by email. Our first working group meeting, task force meeting, is on December 9th. My intention is solely to stay neutral and to be a conduit for you all. and to also keep you apprised of the happenings of the working group. And so I will try to preserve my objectivity as best I can. And I'm with you all. And will be that intermediary, that conduit, that channel to relay all of these feelings, impressions, thoughts, ideas, frustrations to the task force. And we'll also, any communication will be shared through the Town of Marlboro Select Board meeting minutes. I also post through the Town of Marlboro Facebook group, and also through Front Porch Forum and the Hearsay group as well. So I'll try to make this as transparent as possible. That's my first and top priority as my role, is to just be candid, transparent, and to relay all the messaging that comes my way. So please don't be shy. jkselectboard@gmail.com, jkselectboard@gmail.com. So, and I'll be here. Thank you.
So we're going to take another, say, 5 minutes. Can 3 of you fit into 5 minutes, maybe? And then I think we ought to cut it off at that point. So you're next.
All right. So I have no business talking to you at all. I live in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Who are you?
And the only reason I happen to be, I'm Rick Hurst. The only reason I happen to be here is because my kids live here and my grandkids live here, and I'm married and she needs her grandkid fix, and so I'm here. But I've been a math teacher in a small rural Arizona town forever, and I've negotiated the contracts for the teachers and their salaries and such for long periods of time. In Arizona, if you're going to negotiate teacher contracts, you are seriously behind the 8 ball. You know, you have no power, no authority, nothing to lean on whatsoever, and you have to organize power, money, convenience, and get ahead of the curve in order to have a prayer of getting anything done. Until I heard the last 4 speakers, I thought you guys were just spinning your wheels and going nowhere. The last 4 speakers have been a little bit encouraging, but to my mind, just speaking from my experience arguing with people that I have no business arguing with, you guys are really up against it in terms of time, money, power, and convenience. I have not been able to identify anybody that is, you know, clearly the bulldog here that is going to take this by the horns and drag it along. I am a mean, manipulative human being, and I haven't picked out.
Moving here.
I haven't picked out anybody like that in the crowd yet. And I completely agree with the comments that I've been hearing about, you got to come out of this meeting with some organization and with a plan, and with 2 or 3 people that are going to take this by the horns and drag the rest of you along. You know, you need to, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go crazy on you. You know, you need to come up with somebody that you basically give dictatorial power to and some direction to go ahead and pull something together. And sure, come back to the larger group and make sure we're not doing a crazy thing. But you know, you need to have a plan really quick. And your time frame is ridiculous. And if you all go home and you don't do anything, you know, you lose. Now, I have not seen where you have the power to change the president of your, this Kevin guy. I have not heard or seen where you have the power to do anything about Kevin. I haven't seen where you have the power or the time to do much with the Board of Trustees with the college. I might be completely wrong because I'm, you know, because I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. But it strikes me that your best bet is to work with the Emerson College and admit that Emerson College is going to be a player here, and it's too late to change what your Board of Trustees and stuff are doing. You know, they seem like they're acting out of convenience, and they want to get this done and they want to bail on it. And I don't see any other motivation on their part, and I don't see how you're going to get rid of them quick enough, you know, to stop this from happening. So it strikes me that most of you want to keep the college functioning, and it seems like you got to address working with Emerson as they're going to be the power player here. And I've heard where you've got a very viable idea of moving your elementary school onto this campus, which could, you know, which gives Emerson a source of income for doing something useful with this campus. I've heard you talk about how there's $2 million that is donated from the alumni to your current college. You know, that's a lever you can use with Emerson College to say, look, as part of this process, keep some form of Marlboro College going through Emerson College, but not through your current board of directors. You know, you got some pressure you can put on the Attorney General to dangle out there in front of Emerson, like, we're going to make it hard for you to get this endowment transferred over to you. Yeah, I think you have a lot more pull with Emerson to keep something going on this campus than you do through your current president and it's just my point of view based on, you know, an hour and a half of listening to this. But really, seriously, honest to God, people, you got to get 2 or 3 people to go nuts on this, and I really think they're going to have to be. The gentleman in the green and black plaid, you know, are kind of on, you know, I'm kind of on that page, you know, is get aggressive, get mean, you know, and quit messing around talking about conscience and morality and ethics and doing the right thing. Figure out ways to put the screws to them, you know, and either offer them money, power, or convenience. You know, 'cause that's what they care about.
What's your price?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make it really quick, okay?
All right, I was just gonna also say, I believe that moving quickly, there are 2 months that we could put together something even before the initial board decides about going forward. If people want to meet next week, I mean, I think that there's a couple of groups that could form immediately, the school elementary group, the environmental people group, and then like the art group. I don't see one group coming together, but I think one person from each of those ideas needs to form a group. I would probably, I don't know, I'd be happy on any of those 3 groups. But I think meeting maybe here or next door next week, there's a lot of people in this room and a lot of the strong voices are indicating something.
Next week is
Yeah.
Chris Kin, who is the president of
No, I mean during the week, before next Saturday. Like Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday.
Talk to me afterwards then.
It could be here, it could maybe, Jean, could we do it over at your place? Because I too know that these deals end up being done by the least amount of inertia. If it's too slow, it's just gonna go off the cliff. So, you know, I'm down for helping organize one group. So maybe you guys that want to try to get Kevin fired, you guys do your group. And then other people that want to do something going forward will be on a group. And because you just have to get something going immediately. That's all I wanted to say.
I was pretty much going to say the same thing. I think we are not unified in what we want here. There are some people who want to resist, like Andy said, but there are other people who want to reimagine. So I propose that we have a list and you just put your name up if you want to be in the resist or the reimagine.
Can't you do both?
I want to do both.
Well, in 2 months. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just decide where you want to put your energy. That's my
suggestion. And reimagine
One quick.
It seems like there are already a lot of like groups, especially on Facebook, with alumni, that we're grouping ourselves to death. My suggestion would be for Jesse to call a meeting on Tuesday night, whenever. Call a meeting, everybody who wants to be a part of this. We have a representative. Let's not splinter ourselves into a million different little marbles that are going to go rolling all over the place. Let's use the channels that we have. And just
Which leads me perfectly to the announcement I was about to make, which is that I have reserved time at the Select Board meeting, the Marlboro Select Board meeting, which is Tuesday night. And I think we could get about 20 minutes there. And I'm planning to be there, and I would encourage other people. I can post who knows where. But you can.
Somebody's saying you're not.
Well, the timing.
Somebody in there says you're not.
I am going to be there.
On Tuesday night,
Yeah.
you're going to be.
We're going Wednesday. I will be there, and see, we don't know exactly the time, but we have the select board there's a pretty full agenda. Where's the best place for it to be posted? I can post it on all the
everywhere.
I will try and post everywhere. Once I hear the time, it's Lauren MacArthur who knows these things. And
I have the agenda right here.
Yeah. Yeah. We meet at 5, but we might not be on for a while.
It may be that you guys want to move over here. I don't know what we're doing.
Anyway, I'm just suggesting that in terms of, I really like Deanna's suggestion of going through this, of meeting through the select board and Jesse, or Jesse.
We have 1 minute, and then we're going to stop.
Okay. I want to second the idea that we should not fragment ourselves. I think that fragmenting ourselves feeds into exactly what has been done so far, and I don't believe that there's a distinction between reimagining and resisting. We have to resist. We have to resist in order to reimagine. There is not, this is going to be completely out of our control if we don't resist. We will not be reimagining anything except in the service of something that we have no control over.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much on behalf of Joe and Adrian for coming, and keep watching the various sites because information will keep coming out. So.
Thank you.